We are still talking football on the SportsMax zone. The first two quarter-final matches in the Carabao Cup were contested earlier Tuesday. Manchester United hosted League One side Charlton, while Newcastle welcomed Leicester City in an old Premier League affair. Let's start our highlights with Man U versus Charlton.
Referee Jared Gillett, 36-year-old Australian, gets us underway. United coming forward down their left with Garnacho. Player backpedaling, Garnacho taking him on, done brilliantly, and arriving is Dello! Previous occasions in 2020 and 2021, they lost their neighbours Manchester City, who could provide semi-final opposition again, of course. Oh, that's brilliant from Garnacho. He's into the box again, looking threatening again! He doesn't lack confidence, does he? First start on his return was on Friday in that FA Cup victory here against Everton. Garnacho finding Fred. Here's Anthony, who's been very quiet so far. That's not quiet, that's brilliant! Oh, it's magnificent! He has been a bit of a peripheral figure in proceedings up until now, but took up a really good position here. And we've seen enough of him to know what he can do from that kind of range with that left foot of his. Charlton slow to close him down. Maynard Brewer given no chance whatsoever. And Anthony has his 5th goal in United red. Can Fred produce something a bit magical here for United? He can, against the post. Maynard Brewer was beaten. It was a glorious hit from Fred. And the post prevents Charlton from going 2 down. Fred centre, Wan-Bissaka arriving, back post! Ilanga's offside, it won't count. Scott Fraser scored 5 goals this season. He's eyeing this up. It's Fraser, and it's easy for Heaton. And now Garnacho, headed away by O'Connell. Garnacho again. Eriksson! Fantastic save! Smudged by Garnacho. Casemiro, what a lovely ball that is into the path of Pelistri. McTominay to his right. Instead it's Rashford. He's in again! And he's scored again! Lovely ball from Casemiro. Excellent approach work from Pelistri. Rashford held his position and held his nerve as Maynard Brewer came out to meet him. Casemiro, it's Rashford, he's in on goal again, and he scores again! On the job in hand, and these days just never looks like missing. And that is the final whistle on Old Trafford.
Eric, I think somebody just told me it's your 300th win as a manager. How pleased were you with the performance tonight from your team?
Quite good, quite happy with it. I think we started the game very well. It was good energy, good focus. We pinned them in their half. We created chances. I think Diogo Dalot, Fred, big opportunities. I think Alejandro Garnacho good on the one-on-ones. And I think then we make a great goal. The 1-0 was a brilliant goal. It was a team goal, but the finishing from Anthony Dos Santos was great.
Yeah, satisfied. Ten Hag getting some results there for Man United. Former TNT international Brent Sancho now joining us. Brent, we want to talk quickly about Marcus Rashford rediscovering his form, but what about the Man U form? 9 goals in their last 3 matches. Ten Hag is doing something right.
Well, I just read a stat, Lance, that he's gotten the fastest to 20 wins out of any other manager, including Alex Ferguson. So it's a testament to the job that Ten Hag has done so far for Manchester United. Some of it hasn't been pretty. I think we'd have to agree with that. But I think what we've seen from them so far is that they have been quite organised, structured. The discipline is there that was lacking for quite some time. And it looks like a team that's in the ascendancy. And that's the most important thing for any Manchester United fan. Are they closing a gap on the top two? I would suggest maybe, but they're still a little way off from there. But the improvement is certainly there so far.
Yeah, you've long said for many, many months, probably even over a year, Brent, that you think Man United's main problem isn't on the field. The club itself is having issues that they need to deal with. The ownership has been a contentious issue for a while. The owners are still there, but things are beginning to look up. Would you revisit the points you've made in the past about Man U's off-the-field issues and the club disarray that you think had pointed to their lack of success in the past?
Yeah, and it's the difference between them being the Man Cities, the Barcelona, the Real Madrids of this world, and even PSG for that fact. Yes, they may have closed the gap in terms of a top four finish in the EPL, but Manchester United is a club that should be challenging on the European end of things, and I don't think they're any closer to that because of the off-field issues. They still structurally are not, of course, put together in the right way when you don't have the departments that is necessary to, of course, climb the European and even world club football ladder. You will struggle and you will see those deficiencies. You could even see it, Lance, even now in their pursuit of players in the transfer window, how challenging it is. Players genuinely do not want to go to Manchester United because of what has been said, what is known about the club off the pitch. Yes, there's been improvements in the dressing room, and credit Ten Hag for that. But off the field is where they need to improve, and I think if they have to, they have to look at structuring the club better, and you can only hope that happens sooner rather than later.
But my friend, I don't want to hijack the Carabao Cup discussion. Good afternoon, by the way, and Happy New Year to you, my friend. But I have to say that Manchester United structurally are beginning to put things together, and the problems that, well, you compare them to the likes of, and I'm using the clubs you mentioned, my friend. You mentioned Man City, PSG, and a couple others. All of the clubs you mentioned are owned by countries where you can just spend wantonly. You don't have, Manchester United is a publicly listed company, as you know, and has been so for decades. So there is accountability to shareholders that you have, that Man City will never have, PSG will never have, and none of the countries that are owned by governments with money more than the grains of sand on the sea and can do as they please. Like you can buy a 50 million goalkeeper, he flops, you buy a 35 million pound one in the next window. So they can't do that. So I'm just saying that structurally there are roles in the structure of the club that have needed filling out, that have been filled out in the last 12 to 18 months, especially with the departure of Ed Woodward. So things are coming together there. But I'm just saying that it's a bit harsh for you to compare the club to those owned by city-states.
Well, I'm only comparing in terms of the money there. So they've certainly spent the type of money those big clubs have.
But the difference is, Brent, that they've earned those monies. The monies that City and PSG spend are, of course, blank checks written to them by their rich owners. The money Manchester United spends, to the consternation of the fans, is the money that the club makes, and of course the owners take money that we make, and so there isn't any to invest in the physical infrastructure, plans to redevelop Old Trafford. So I'm just saying that you're a bit harsh we're still in the new year, we're still in January, Brent. You can be a bit more kind.
Well, I'll put it into context, and I think when you look at what Manchester United have done, you look at how much they've spent for Jadon Sancho, you look at what they've spent for Anthony. They've seemed to be a club that overspends on transfers. They seem to every transfer saga that they've had have gone through the mill and back. A lot of that speaks to a sporting director. A lot of it speaks to the type of... So I agree with you. With Woodward leaving, I think the addition of someone of experience in that field will help them move along, because they seem to still struggle to get the type of players they need to come in. When you look at the price City paid for Erling Haaland, I'm very sure if that player was offered to Manchester United, they probably would have paid 3 times the amount. So I do feel still that that side of the game still needs to improve drastically for Manchester United. But where I would agree with you, George, I still think the academy is functioning at a very high level. When you look at the type of players that are coming through the academy, of course, Garnacho being one, Alanga, of course, as well, Rashford now in terrific form. They are doing something right there, and you have to give them credit for that side of things. But you're right, it's a progress. It's a work in progress. I still feel that, of course, the manager Ten Hag and what he's been able to do, I think any Manchester United fan would argue that he has reached his goals and his targets faster than anyone would have thought of now the club off the field needs to try to catch up to where he is and what he's been doing as a manager.
Okay, Brent, we're moving on now to the Newcastle versus Leicester City match, which took place at St James's Park. And let's have a look at those highlights now.
It's Leicester City, all in blue, against Newcastle, of course, in the famous black and white, and conceded only 11 goals this season, the Newcastle goalkeeper. Castagne's lost it. Willock to Joe Linton to Dan Burn. Burn! The lofty defender, finishing like a seasoned striker. Here's Miguel Almiron. That's a lovely ball. Joe Linton! And that's a lovely finish. Castagne. Good run by Perez. He's onside. Vardy's in the middle. Jamie Vardy! Oh, he's missed it. And now Vardy. Harder chance. And he's put it just wide of the far post. As Newcastle fans mentally count down the seconds until they can celebrate. And there it is. Another hurdle negotiated by Eddie Howe's Newcastle.
Yeah, Vardy at 36 years old, Brent, not the player he was 5 or 6 years ago, but Newcastle getting the result that they would have wanted here.
Yeah, I read a comment by Rogers of Leicester City, and he said he's not a magician. And we've heard those sorts of comments come out of him throughout the season. And it's simply based on the fact that, of course, the ownership at Leicester City have not given him the type of players necessary for him, of course, reshape the squad and invest in the squad. Hence the reason why he made that statement. And you have to wonder what's going to happen to Leicester. It's a team, of course, that would have won the Premiership a couple of years back and have consistently done very well. But they seem to have gone very flat. And I think a lot of it is down to the fact that they have not been able to reinvest in the squad and being able to make changes within. And you have to wonder how long Brendan Rodgers is going to stay there, because it must be very frustrating for him as a manager not being able to do the type of work necessary to take Leicester to the next level.
Yeah, on the Newcastle point, Brent, Eddie Howe, by all accounts, has done really, really well with this team. And they find themselves very close to an appearance at Wembley for a cup final, which would mark success so early in the new ownership, the new way forward at Newcastle. How dangerous is Newcastle for Manchester United, who they will play in the next round of this competition?
I think Newcastle go in as favourites, and simply because of the type of form that they've been in throughout this season. Of course, they're competing in the top four and in the top two, actually. They're very close to Man City and Arsenal, and as they, of course, approach whoever becomes the winner in the EPL. But I think what Eddie Howe has been able to do has been absolutely tremendous. You know, when he first came in, there was a lot of course, talk of whether or not they got the right manager and whether or not what type of manager would come in, because they were considered the richest club in world football. But they really haven't spent that much. They've spent very wisely in terms of their acquisitions and the type of players they've brought in. And they've gone about their business quite diligently. And a lot of it is down to Eddie Howe and the way that he has them playing. You look at Joe Linton, a man reborn, for example, somebody that got not a lot of minutes under the previous manager. So it's a team that is certainly playing well. You have to wonder, where do they go next? I think that's the biggest question in Newcastle. Do they go and splash out in the transfer, or do they continue in the building process that they're doing right now? But I do think, as I said, they're favourites going into the one against Manchester United in the semi-finals.
Okay, Brent, we're going to leave it there. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon. We'll catch up, sir. We go to break now. When we come back, the returning Mara Ramparak with Zone Update 2.
Thank you for watching SportsMax on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and to click the notification bell to stay informed.